Okay, good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to this next episode of FPL Family with me, Lee, and Sky Sports news presenter Sam Bonfield, ladies and gentlemen. How good was that experience on Saturday? For those of you that, if you caught it, I'd love to hear in the comments what you thought about it. We were on Sky Sports News doing a whole fantasy football thing on Saturday morning, and it was ace, wasn't it? It was really, really good fun. And Hayley and the team really made us feel welcome. It was good, right?
How scared were we before we got there, though?
We were absolutely papping it, guys. I don't mind telling you. You were very, very, overtly nervous. And I thought...
The night before, I was terrified.
Yeah. And I thought, if I also am nervous and show you that I'm nervous, we'll just be nervous wrecks. So why don't I just try and be cool? And I largely pulled it off, I think, until we got into the studio. I was like, oh, wow, this is actually happening.
It was when we came out and you went, I was also really nervous. And I was like, what? I thought it was just me.
No, definitely. But it was good, wasn't it? We really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
So much fun.
And we're back on again in a couple of weeks, right?
The 22nd.
Very good. Yeah. Looking forward to it. So there we go, guys. So the Sky Sports news stuff has happened. Welcome to
this mic, and now look, it's just on its own roller coaster.
Is it gonna fall?
It's sliding.
Is it?
Yeah.
Do I need to tighten it up?
Yeah.
Hold on, I'll tighten it up. Go on. Sort the technology out. There we go. That'll do. It's just in shot, but we can live with that. There we go. Wonderful. Thank you very much. So, folks, game week 10 is nearly in the bag. We have Leicester versus Nottingham Forest tomorrow.
That was last
Forest versus, who are they playing, please?
Aston Villa.
Forest versus Villa. I'm still a little bit emotional about earlier. We're going to talk about that in just a second. We have, of course, just finished watching Everton versus Manchester United. And it was back to the wall for United at the end, wasn't it? Everton, a spirited show, and actually a Pickford nearly getting a header right at the death there, were it not for a bit of David De Gea magic. So, seriously, a good win for Manchester United, especially given up until this game, Everton were the best defence in the league, right? Conceded the fewest amount of goals. So for United to go there and get the win is a good result for them, right?
Yeah, but not without, contentious moments in the game. Obviously, Martial going off.
Yeah. I felt for him a little bit because he gets the start. He got an assist, I think, as well, Martial, in that game. And then this... He just can't stay fit, can he, Martial?
No, but there just seems to be a lot of that, doesn't there? Calvert-Lewin was back on for a bit. Yeah, let's... Yeah, Martial's a difficult one, isn't it? Let's just see, I guess, what happens and what's said in the press conferences afterwards about how bad, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
It would be a shame, wouldn't it, for him if he's literally just come back, if he's then out for another couple of weeks.
Yes, absolutely, yes. But Ronaldo coming on in his stead and scoring is kind of an interesting one, isn't it? But more on the game a bit later on. We're going to talk about our teams, guys, a bit later on. We'll talk about overall ranks and all that sort of stuff because... feels like we're kind of getting to a stage of the season where we should start talking about ranks a bit more. How do you feel about it? Because up until now, it's like, well, don't worry about ranks, but I don't know, maybe.
But it's a weird one, isn't it? Because in terms of the time of the season, it does feel like around game week, somewhere between game week 7 and 10 is normally the time you start talking about overall rank.
Yeah.
But this year, it's still so close. It kind of feels a bit...
It's very bunched up. Still is, yeah.
It still kind of feels a bit like, nah, because if I have one player that bangs, then... I'm up 200k places again.
I'll tell you one FPL manager in the community talking about his rank is our friend Ross, Mr. FPL Raptor, doing very, very well.
To be fair, if I was Ross, I'd be telling everyone to pay attention to their overall rank.
He's something like 130th, and I don't mean K. He's like something ridiculous in the world. And
yeah, it's amazing stuff.
He's just
well done, Ross.
Last week in particular, I think he had a good week this week, but last week he just everything went for him. It was unbelievable. So well done, Ross. We're cheering for you, mate. We want you to win this thing.
Yeah, we love Raptor.
It feels like every season there's at least one sort of content creator or somebody that's doing really well. Last year with FPL Mate was doing really well. This year's Raptors doing really, really well. Sort of Let's Talk Andy's been doing well, hasn't he, in recent seasons. So we're rooting for you guys. The FPL community is behind you, Raptor. Get going, mate. Keep going. So we'll talk about teams. We'll talk about the fixtures. We'll look ahead to game week 11 as well, which is a Friday deadline, I think, next week.
Yes.
I think it's a Friday deadline, so look out for that, guys.
Are you cold?
Going forward.
Is it just me?
I'm actually all right. Are you a bit cold here?
Absolutely frozen.
It has taken a turn for the chilly in the UK, hasn't it? Last week or so.
I'm in my jumper and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm still like...
But we're not putting the heating on because the utility bills are so high. And to heat your house, guys, if you're based in the UK, if you're based in the UK, you'll know what we're talking about here. And maybe if you're elsewhere, you'll know what we're talking about. The energy price is through the roof, so we're not turning the heating on. Stick another jumper on. Let's go and say hello to a few people, Sam. I'm all right. I'm fine. I'm hot-blooded. Right. Let's say hello to a few people. Andrew Yee is in. Hey, Andrew. Nice to see you. We've got James in, who's just giving Raptor a round of applause. Yes, we should give Raptor a bit of a round of applause. Very, very good rank. Matthew Wilkinson is in. He's saying Diaz is in a knee brace. Yeah, mate. That was the icing on an unpleasant cake this afternoon. We'll talk about that game. Maybe we'll go there first, actually, and get that out of the way. Torben Nilsson is in. How are we doing, Torben? Nice to see you. The Smiths, 1986. Azzy is here. How are we doing, mate? Good to see you. FPL Harry is in with the waving emojis. Hey, Harry. How are you doing, mate? You're
going to see Harry this week?
I am. In fact, Harry and I are going to be on the Off the Bench podcast this week, aren't we? So, Harry, I'm very much looking forward to that on Tuesday. Tuesday morning, aren't we? Tuesday morning. So look out for this week's Off the Bench podcast with me and FPL Harry. I guess really sort of Tuesday afternoon, evening, something like that. Tuesday afternoon,
yeah, about 4 o'clock probably.
Like
it's usually about 4 o'clock.
Record it in the morning. Sam, we have to give a massive shout out and hello to Cy Burdett. So
Cy, from your hospital bed.
He's here. He's not well. He's not well. He says, hello there, Bonfields. It was great to see you on Sky Sports. A poorly timed free hit that cost me points is inexcusable. Then again, I am in hospital.
Yeah,
so,
is.
yes, Cy, good luck, mate. I hope you're doing okay. And get well soon, mate. Get well soon. Duncan Crawford also with the super chat. Hey Duncan, how are we doing, mate? Thank you for the super chat. Hey guys, brilliant on Sky Sports. Thank you, mate. Really,
Thanks,
really
Duncan.
appreciate that.
I love Duncan's comment in our Slack channel when I came off.
What?
When we came off Sky.
Oh yeah, that was Duncan, wasn't it?
And he sent a picture and he just said, "I feel like a proud child."
Yeah, that to be fair made us proper laugh, Duncan. Appreciate that.
We properly laughed.
Appreciate that. He felt like a proud child.
Mum and dad of FPL, something ridiculous.
Very good. He says, "Hey guys, brilliant on Sky. Congrats. 6 words: Solanke and Andreas off the bench." Ooh, very, very nice. I'll tell you what, if you've got Solanke, like, listen, fair play. The 2 assists that he got, I mean, oh my God, it's just ridiculous assists. But if you've got Solanke, you do not care. You're taking that 8 points and you're running. And Cancelo with a haul, is Triple City attack still an option? Well, with Liverpool up next, Duncan, it absolutely is an option. We'll talk about that a bit later on. Paul Cook is in. We've got Clacko, John Tyner. We've got Tarbo Garma is in. A whole host of you guys are in tonight, guys. So thank you very much for joining us at this slightly later time because of Everton Man United. We thought we'd get that game done and dusted. We wanted to watch it as well. I'm glad we did up until the end because it was a decent game. And here we are live a little bit later than usual. But Sam, let's crack on with the games. I don't want to go through every game tonight because we'll probably do a slightly shorter live stream tonight. It's getting a bit late here tonight.
Yeah, but we say this all the time and then we never do it.
I know, and I say I won't waffle and then I waffle, but go on. Where do you want to start? I tell you what, I'd like to start.
Rip the Band-Aid off. Just rip it off.
Let's go for
Sometimes
it.
it's better.
Arsenal 3, Liverpool 2. Go on then. You go first and then I'll go second.
Well, okay, I will, but I didn't watch a lot of it. I had to take Evie to a birthday party today, so I missed most of this game. Listened to some of the first half on my way back home.
Do you want me to give an opinion then?
No, I can talk about the second half because I saw the majority of the second half. For me, it's interesting. I think, look, Arsenal, we said in the early part of the season they've been performing incredibly well. There was a lot of really great stuff we were seeing out of them, but they hadn't really played, with the exception of Manchester United. Otherwise, I get shouted at again for saying that. They hadn't really played anybody of major note. But what we've seen in the last 2 weeks from Arsenal is now they've played Spurs and Liverpool and they've taken 6 points out of those 2 games. This is a team that is high on confidence right now. It is a team that believes in themselves. They are fully invested in what Arteta is trying to do at Arsenal.
Absolutely.
And the players that are playing really well are the ones that, from an FPL perspective, are relatively easy to own because, of course, the Arsenal players aren't that expensive. And we're talking about players like Martinelli, like Saka, to a lesser extent today, but like Jesus. And they're easy to invest in. And I think, the difficulty that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, of course, is that they blank in game week 12 and you do have to have a plan for that, but they've got Leeds up next. And with the way that they played against Liverpool and the Liverpool defence today, and okay, Liverpool defensively haven't been great, and I'm sure you're going to give some opinions on Trent and the injuries that Liverpool picked up today.
Oh, yes.
But I think, for me, I'm looking at Liverpool. I sold Luis Diaz this week, and I must admit, going into this game, I was worried about it. I think I said that on Sky. Like, I was nervous about having sold Luis Diaz, because for me, he'd been the Liverpool player that I felt kind of the most confident would be involved, and he was.
And as you rightly said, I think this time last week, scoring goals is not really one of Liverpool's problems at the minute.
No, it hasn't been. And Liverpool have been scoring goals, but there's still something that's not quite right about that attack even. It feels a bit disjointed. I mean, you're still doing good things going forward, but not quite the free-flowing, everyone knows where they are Liverpool attack that we're used to. But obviously, seems to be quite a serious injury, and Klopp's comments after the game about him and Trent.
Looks like a bad one.
I
think he had his knee in a brace and stuff, didn't he, Diaz?
So actually, having sold him, he did get the assist, but he also got booked in. He only played for not even the whole of the first half.
3 points,
so
right?
3 points. Yeah. So actually, it feels okay that I sold him. But the Arsenal players, as somebody, that hasn't wildcarded yet, and with game week 12 in mind, I keep looking at my Arsenal players thinking, right, and I was saying this to you earlier, wasn't I, when we were looking at my bus team for next week, I really should start selling my Arsenal and my Man City players. No chance.
You can't.
I'll just do it I'll do it bang on game week 12
I genuinely think it's a real shame that game is off in 12, because
would have been a fantastic match, wouldn't it?
That is, it maybe both teams are in different headspaces by the time it comes around, but that right now would have been a cracker, wouldn't it?
Would have been a
couple of weeks from now,
game.
City v Arsenal, an absolute cracker.
Yeah, it would have been.
And we're not able to get it, unfortunately.
Midweek under the lights, it would have been honestly,
really
it would have
good
been
game.
such a great game of football, and I'm sure that when it gets rescheduled for, it will still be a great game of football. But these two teams, I would have loved to have seen them come up against each other right now, because they are the form teams in the league. They're both full of confidence and riding on a high.
Without a doubt.
It would have been fantastic.
And that makes it difficult from an FPL perspective, doesn't it? Because you rightly say, we're trying to manufacture our way out of these clubs' assets for game week 12, but you just can't, I don't think. You just can't. And you have to almost either do as you've done and kind of save your wild card and fix it, take a few of them out in game week 12 and then fix it afterwards. Or maybe does the free hit even into your mind or not? I don't know.
I do. I mean, I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now, but the problem is, I think it's almost not now.
No,
with the free hit.
If that was your plan, that needed to be your plan a few weeks ago, didn't it?
You need to have invested in Arsenal and Man City last week in order for it to be a really successful plan. And I think it was a plan. And I said it a couple of times on various different things. I think you could fully invest 3 City, 3 Arsenal, and free hit in 12, knowing that coming out then you get these players that you really want beyond game week 12. But I'm looking, so a nice segue into you for talking about Liverpool. One of the reasons why people were talking about selling KDB going into game week 12, obviously because he was blanking, and it was the switch to Liverpool, because everyone kept saying, oh, Salah's the most obvious captaincy choice ahead of game week 12. Well, I can't imagine me handing anyone from Liverpool the captaincy armband against West Ham in game week 12.
No, I mean, I have to say, so first and foremost, Arsenal were phenomenal. They were really, really good. Again, and you're right, it's all that they've got steel, they've got character, they've got belief, they've got intensity in a way that we didn't really have, particularly in that second half. Now, in the first half, apart from the first minute and the last minute, I thought we were actually all right.
Okay.
But classic Liverpool again, to just go under the cosh really early on, concede the early goal, which has happened way too often. But actually, the intensity wasn't too bad. To go in 2-1 down at half time, I was really aggrieved at that.
Right.
Because actually, I thought we actually played all right in the first half. But we cannot defend like that. You just cannot defend like that in the Premier League. I really, really want to stick up for him. I really do. But it's getting really hard to stick up for Trent at the minute, particularly on Arsenal's second goal, where Henderson is actually doing an all right job on Martinelli. He's actually doing an all right job, and he's showing Martinelli down the line, which is where you want him, because then Martinelli's got to get the cross across, and you'd expect Alisson to maybe pick it out of the air. Job done. Get to half-time, 1-1, away we go. Okay. And in my head, I'm sitting there thinking, at 1-1, when we've played pretty well, apart from that first minute, we've got to go on and try, and we're in a good position to win this game. So to go 2-1 down going into half-time was incredible. But the way that Trent defended it, he kind of ran over to cover where Henderson was, and he assumed that Henderson and Martinelli were going to go that way. So he kind of ran past Henderson, but having made the mistake, then didn't recover and just sort of stayed there. And Martinelli come back on his other foot and whipped it in, and Saka was there. It was just really poor. A lot of rhetoric around the first goal, and you can't blame Trent too much for the first goal. What happens on the first goal is that SUPERCHAT is out of position, who is also a liability. I know you like him. I like him as well on YouTube. I do not like him at left back.
No, but I like him.
Because of his character, not because he's a good footballer. Yeah,
but also I don't blame SUPERCHAT in many ways because he doesn't play enough football. If he played regular football, maybe he would read games better than he does.
Oh, he's played 3 games in a row. I mean, he should be doing better than that. Anyway, he gets caught out of position. Van Dijk comes therefore over to cover Saka, and there's an overload at the back post. Trent's up against 4 players. Now he does get passed through pretty easily, but 4 on 1 on an overload, you can't really point the finger of blame too much at Trent. But on the second goal, you can.
But then he's injured.
Well, that's what's coming out of Klopp's mouth. Yeah, is that and actually, if he had have been taken off for tactical reasons, you could believe it. But also,
but the physio did go straight to him. But when I was on the radio, I was driving home at this point, and the commentator on the radio said, interesting. He said, "Oh, the physios come straight onto the pitch. It's half time, and he's walking off with Trent discussing."
Yeah.
So it did seem like it was genuine.
Trent hasn't been off
ankle
for 5 years unless he really feels like he's got it. Yeah, he turned his ankle in a challenge with Martinelli. Nothing to do with Martinelli. Completely innocent, right? But Trent's ankle does go, and I actually was surprised to see him carry on at the time.
Right.
What I will say though is that for everybody that talks about Trent's lack of defensive ability, and I'm starting to get on board with that narrative a little bit. You saw instantly in the second half what he gives you, right? He is the most, and the stats will say the same in terms of progressive passes out of defence. He is the best in the league at it. That's not an opinion. You look at the stats in terms of his progressive passing. He moves Liverpool up the pitch, and he can play the ball into the midfield and therefore take the pressure off the defence.
Yeah.
Gomez can't do that. There's a lot of things Gomez can't do, but he's no Trent in that. So for every hater that's hating on Trent for not defending well, just know that he is brilliant at getting us out of that transition out of defence.
And that's fine.
And Arsenal pegged us back.
Yeah.
And we could not get out of our half in the second half, and they applied the pressure. We couldn't get out.
But the problem is, from taking it to FPL for a minute, is that it's all very well and good for Trent to be progressive in getting it out of the defence, but you're not paying nearly $7.5 million for a player that's never getting a clean sheet at the moment, and also isn't getting the attacking returns. So he might be able to pass it out from defence, but we're not seeing attacking returns from him in the way that we used to. So what are we getting out of this player? Well, the answer at the moment is absolutely nothing. We're getting 1 and 2 pointers.
Well, you're going to sell him now. I mean, the injury doesn't look great. And
but if you're invested in, say, Van Dijk, because some people have thought it's very difficult to own Trent and Robertson because of pricing. I don't want to spend that much. If you are invested in another way, or Alisson is your goalkeeper, now surely is an absolutely essential time to just get rid. You've got Robertson injured on one side, you've got Trent injured on the other. Any reason to hold any of these Liverpool players right now?
No.
Salah?
No, there isn't. Unfortunately, there isn't. I could go on a lot about what I think is wrong at Liverpool, but Fabinho has got a lot to answer for as well. Interesting that he started on the bench today. Really interesting. That's a big game. If his headspace is right, if everything's right, if he's 100%, he does start that game every day of the week. And even on the third Arsenal goal, right? I know that the penalty, I think it's soft. Is it a penalty? Not in my opinion, but I'm probably biased. But like a moment before that, just put your foot through it, Fabinho. Put your foot through it. Get rid of it. But instead, it's all ping pong. It was like Sunday League five-a-side, 5-year-old football. And somewhere in there, someone gets fouled. It was just nonsense. But sorry, I've rambled too long. From an FPL perspective, no, you can't have any Liverpool players. Would you have Salah right now in FPL? Absolutely not.
Well, no, but the reason I asked the question is there were a number of managers who were wildcarding in game week 8/9 who, obviously knowing that game week 12 was coming, were looking for a captaincy option in their team built ready.
Yeah.
And a lot of managers went to Salah at that moment on that basis that, he was going to play at a time when you weren't going to have your Manchester City, you weren't going to have your Arsenal players. At that point, West Ham weren't performing particularly well, and therefore Salah looked like maybe being the most obvious captaincy choice. But
let's have a look at those game week 12 fixtures and look at the sort of standout fixtures, because you're right. I mean, Liverpool at home to West Ham, I guess a few weeks ago would have stood out, and I guess it still does. Although West Ham have found a good time to find a bit of form, and Jarrod Bowen's found a bit of form. I mean, Brighton at home to Forest. I mean, that's a decent fixture. If you had Leandro Trossard,
I've got the hiccups. It made me laugh.
I'd probably be looking at. Oh God, would you look at him over Salah? You'd consider it. There's a conversation to be had now, at least, right? Whereas a few weeks ago, you're saying, well, you're right. The wild card is in game week 9. Absolutely, bringing in Salah for game week 12.
I mean, this is the thing I talked about on the, one of the questions.
Palace home to Wolves. Could you have Wilf in there as captain? I mean, you could.
You absolutely could. I mean, this is when we were on Sky yesterday. Hayley asked, didn't she, about Salah and Trent? That was one of the questions she threw me, and I said then, like, to me, the cheaper midfield options are all more attractive right now than Salah. Like, I'd rather have the likes of Zaha and Maddison and Trossard in my FPL team right now than I would Mo Salah, which is a statement that I never ever thought I would say in pre-season. But I can't see me trusting, even if I had Salah, I wouldn't trust him with the armband for game week 12. So I think now, if you are already set for game week 12 in terms of your in terms of your Arsenal and your Man City assets, now would be the time that I would look to move Salah on, because it's Manchester City up next, and honestly, I don't think you should watch.
Well, we'll talk about that in just a second. A super chat from Xi Jinping. Thank you, Xi. Trent and Maddison are the Gerrard and Lampard or Beckham and Scholes for England stats-wise, especially in a back five. Trent could play very high up. Yeah, he could. We might, I guess, at some stage be looking at maybe a change in position for Trent. But listen,
might not even get on the plane, particularly if his ankle's bad.
Well, yeah, absolutely, yeah. But even then, there'd be a case for maybe not taking him. I mean, he's not featured much for England recently, has he? But to your point a second ago, and let's segue into that, because let me go to this page and let's close down that one so I don't have to look at it anymore, and let's look at another big scoreline to nil for Manchester City, which seems to be just happening with alarming regularity at the moment.
Were you a little bit disappointed though with this?
Why? What do you mean?
I thought Man City. I thought this was going to be 9-10.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
I thought Man City would just, they didn't even have to be out of first gear to beat Southampton by more than 4, I thought. So when this was 4, I was a bit like, I just kind of, I don't mean this in any kind of disrespectful way to either side. I just think that Man City are that good that it surprised me to see them only get 4 goals.
But that's every week, isn't it?
I know, yeah.
I'm looking at them every week and saying, like...
Have you not got 12?
When Collins got sent off against them for the Wolves game, was it Molineux or Etihad? I think it was at Molineux. And they sort of waltzed to a 3-4 nil, didn't they? And it was just like, it's happening every week. They are smashing teams to nil every week and barely getting out of second gear. Now, here's why I think it's a segue from the previous game. Liverpool... Manchester City next week. The title on the thumbnail is "Can Klopp stop Haaland?" I don't think he can. I don't think Liverpool can stop Haaland.
I don't think anyone can.
And the
stop
challenge
Haaland.
I have with it is that there are some things going into that game that Man City will know, right? So Man City will know that Liverpool, we have not lost a game in front of an Anfield crowd for about 5 years. Now, we lost some games over COVID when they were behind closed doors and there was no fans, but we have not lost in front of a home crowd for 5 years. City will know that. City will know that by beating us at Anfield next weekend, they will kill us off. Right?
I think you're already
We are dead already.
14 points,
Yeah. Don't rub it in. We are dead already. But Man City will know that they'll smell blood and they'll kill us off. Yeah. So for me, that says, okay, well, City, I think, will find that extra gear next week. Pep knows that we're a dangerous team, right? And in the past has come up against us. City will go up a gear. Now, that is frightening because the gear they're in at the minute, whatever it is, and it's a low 1,
2.
They are still smashing teams 4-0 at a canter. I think they're going to come to Anfield, up it, and we're going to be in trouble. And that is absolutely why right now, we'll talk about bus teams later on, but I have Haaland bus captain right now, and I don't see it changing. I really don't.
The problem is that you're also dealing with a makeshift Liverpool defence. For all of the negative stuff that we've just said about Trent, fundamentally going into a Manchester City game, you would want Trent in your team. You don't have another obvious replacement for him. On the other side, you do have Tsimikas, who can sort of come in and cover for Robertson. Whatever you think about Tsimikas, at least you have another player that's his
Joe
position.
Gomez is as good a cover as Tsimikas on that side.
Oh,
he is. Yeah, Tsimikas is average and Gomez is pretty average. The challenge you've got is that neither of them are as good at Robbo and Trent at getting out. You saw it today in the second half. We can't get out when Trent is not there because we can't play those progressive balls as much. So therefore, we will be inviting wave after wave of attack from Man City. the thought of Grealish and the form that he's in going up against Gomez
Arrested
at the minute.
Grealish.
Is it what?
Rested.
Oh, I thought you said arrested. I was like, what's he done?
He's had a rest.
Yeah, but I thought you said he'd been arrested, like he'd done something wrong.
No.
I thought, that's good.
A rested Grealish.
Right, okay, good. I've missed some news then. I thought, what's he spending the night in a cell for?
He's had a rest.
And then you've got Tsimikas up against, Phil Foden. I mean,
but not only that,
boys and girls, it could get ugly next week.
It's not only that, is it? Like, so you're not going to have Diaz. Like, looks likely at the moment that you're not going to have Diaz. So you're going to have a team that's got a makeshift front line as well, because Salah's off it. Oh, well, you'll come back in, but he's off it. You've got Darwin Núñez, who's just as likely to be sent off as he is to score.
Well, so I'll stop you there, because the one positive to come out today I thought was Darwin Núñez. I thought he was a handful. He gave Gabriel nightmares. I thought it was probably the worst game I've seen Gabriel play, actually.
Interesting.
And I thought Núñez, like strikers do when they target Matip or whoever's partner in Van Dijk, I thought Núñez did a really good job of targeting Gabriel today. And it was, I actually thought he played pretty well. Took his goal well, was a nuisance. Could he finish some better? Yeah, he could. But then, listen, we've got to get him service. But
how's that gonna play out against? Because
by the way, he played a lot. He was far less influential once Luis Diaz went off.
Well, that's what I mean. I think Luis Diaz has been your best player attack-wise so far this season.
It's Firmino, I think, but yeah, Diaz has been pretty good.
Firmino in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But over the course of the season as a whole, I'd argue that it's Luis Diaz that's been your best forward player. Firmino, the last couple of games has been great. Yes, I will say that about him. I love Firmino. Jota's just coming back from injury and doesn't look quite fit and firing yet.
Okay.
But that will come.
Right.
Jota's a great player, but I really worry for you this weekend. I really do. I just don't.
So what are we saying about Manchester City's FPL assets then? So, let's not talk about Haaland, but you're still sitting here with Cancelo and Ederson.
I am, yeah.
So how are you feeling about Ederson going forward? And do you feel like you're missing out on these goal bonanzas that City keep posting?
Well, that was kind of the point that I was trying to make when I was misquoted on Twitter the other day. Was that,
That was hilarious, by the way.
Yes, I do feel like that. And I said, in the aftermath of the Southampton game, I think that is something that we should be looking at. We should be looking at, for managers like myself, who's invested in the double Man City defence with Ederson and Cancelo, or for those that have got Cancelo and maybe Diaz or Walker now is injured as well, players like that, you can and you should, in my opinion, be looking to disengage a little bit from the defence. Now, that doesn't mean that I think that Man City won't get clean sheets. I absolutely think that Man City will get clean sheets, and a number of them, between now and the World Cup. So obviously, maybe not against Liverpool, and then there's the blank. But between game week 13 and game week 16, I could almost see Man City clean sheeting every single week in those fixtures. However, the way that they are playing, it's such impressive, easy attacking football, and they're so clinical with the attacks that they are building, that you can... Arguably, you're going to get a 6 out of Ederson. You might get a haul out of Cancelo.
The ceiling for Ederson is 6,
but the ceiling is 6. Whereas, so Cancelo maybe is still a hold, but...
Cancelo is maybe a hold. Absolutely a hold.
Well, yes, but if you think about... And on wildcard, this is a conversation I'm going to have with myself, isn't it? Because obviously Haaland's a have. Absolutely. Cannot do anything about him. Yeah. So that's just a given. But then you've got 2 more City spaces. Now... KDB, Foden, Grealish. I know Grealish didn't really, got a rest this weekend, but those 3 for me could all be good picks, and they're all players that I think I would really like to have in a wildcard team. And then there's Cancelo as well, and I bracket him in with those because actually picking 2 out of 4 is a challenge. So I can still see justification for leaving Cancelo out and going for 2 of the midfielders instead. I don't know that it's quite as clear-cut as it once was after what we saw from Cancelo this week, but I do still think that there's a real benefit for going all-out attack with Manchester City because they are scoring goals for fun.
They are. They absolutely are. And Grealish is kind of starting to remind me a little bit of David Silva, actually, from an FPL perspective, because he's running the game. He's getting... So Match Today did some analysis on him, and that his influence over the game is incredible. isn't necessarily posting the FPL points, though, is it? It's Foden and it's Haaland that are the kind of dream team at the minute. De Bruyne is ticking over with assists, like, just assist after assist, unbelievable. But I wonder whether with Kevin, you want a bit of goal threat for that money as well, because he's not cheap, right?
No, I think you're right there.
Do you want a bit of goal threat? So in my mind, like you, I'm thinking about, well, what do my Man City 3 look like going forward? Because I think you have 3. I don't think there's any question of that.
Oh no, I think 3's a must.
And one's Haaland. The other one for me is still Cancelo, but I'm considering whether I do a downgrade Is it a downgrade from De Bruyne to Foden and sort of save that money? And up until fairly recently, I've been thinking, well, I'll go De Bruyne because I don't know what I would do with that money.
The other way.
Well, I know, and maybe that's clearly was a mistake, wasn't it? Doing Foden out on my wild card.
I think what you just said there is really important, because in seasons gone by, this FPL budget, there's 100 million that they give us and that we work so hard to increase over the course of the early part of the season. We're always scrabbling around for the 0.1s because we've got to spend every penny, because we've got to have the likes of Salah, and we've got to have the likes of Trent, and we've got to have Cancelo, and we've got to have KDB, and we've got to have now Haaland. Yes. This season, I'm not sure that stands anymore. Like, I honestly think you don't need to have a highly premium midfielder. You don't need Son and Salah and KDB. Okay. That doesn't mean I don't think that they're ever going to return points again, but I think their cheaper counterparts can offer you just as much, if not more, for less of the price. You look at KDB, and you can have Foden instead. All right, he's injured now, so it's maybe less of a conversation, but you could have had Luis Diaz over Salah up until this point. You've got the likes of Maddison and Zaha with their nice fixtures. You've got the two Arsenal boys in Saka and Martinelli offering phenomenal value for money, both of them.
You could say that about any of the premiums, though, couldn't you? I mean, apart from Haaland, who is really going off this season?
Well,
really?
Nobody. I mean, the only other one that's regularly returning at a premium level is Kane. And he's returning...
Not a premium level, though.
He's returning one goal a week. He's the second highest scoring in the... Well, he was. I don't know if he still is, but he was the second highest scoring player in the game. It's 1 goal a week, though, from Kane is what you're getting. He's the only premium that is every week outside of the City boys that's returning. Now, I don't think that makes him a must-have by any stretch of the imagination, but he is another premium you could have. I think the point I'm trying to make is we shouldn't feel this season at this moment that we have to spend every penny of the budget.
Yeah, if you want to leave some money in the bank, it's okay.
It is okay to have 4 million in the bank, and that feels a little bit ridiculous. But at the same time, just because you have that money doesn't mean you should upgrade.
Okay. All right, and just to sort of again segue into a different game, part of the having money in the bank and not knowing where to spend it, the whole kind of big at the back conversation. Cancelo aside, and I do feel like these kind of big premiums, the Cancelos, the Reece Jameses, who I know you want to talk about in a minute, right? Even Trippier's not really a premium,
count as a premium,
is he?
He's cheaper.
But those two in particular, right? So James and Cancelo, I think on any given week they can go off, right? On any given week they're going to get rested on a 1-pointer. Hello, Reece James this week. But on any given week, Cancelo can come up with an 18-pointer. They're just capable of it. So for me, given that money doesn't seem to be too much of an issue right now, I'm quite happy sitting on those two and just knowing that I'm going to ride the 1s and 2s and know that there's 18 pointers out there for them too. And when they land, I'm going to have them. Let's segue over to Chelsea, because the rotation in that game today, the game yesterday, hit pretty hard, right? So Sterling, who you spent most of Saturday on Sky Sports News bigging up,
I was baffled. Honestly, this Potter team...
Interesting lineup, right?
We were... Had we got back, or were we driving when the team news came? I can't remember. And I read the team out and I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
What is this? We've got no James. We've got no Chilwell. We've got no Sterling. We've got no Aubameyang. And somebody else quite big as well, wasn't there, that missed out? I can't remember.
Not sure.
And I was looking at that team thinking, what on earth is this? Has Potter turned into Pep? But it was just insane. And to be honestly, it is literally... the icing on the cake for me with Reece James. I am so...
Why didn't you sell him?
I am
You say this every week. Sell him.
Angry Well, because I feel like I'm stuck in a Reece James hole and I can't get out of it because I've got to deal with other stuff because I need to deal with my Man City and my Arsenal for the blank.
That's why you won't sell him, though, because of everything I just said. He will pop up with a 15-pointer at some stage.
I won't sell him.
It will happen.
I won't sell him at this moment because I have to deal with Man City and Arsenal for game week 12. So I can't waste a transfer dealing with Reece James because I need to make sure I've got a full squad for game week 12. On wildcard, I cannot see any part of my team. I can't see any reason why I'd keep Reece James.
Okay.
Even if he's got a 15-pointer in him. Why should I sit on 3 1s for one 15-pointer when I could own a player that could regularly return 5 or 4 points every week? I'd rather spend less.
The chat is saying that obviously I think I remember Thiago Silva as well. You had who else? Kepa coming in goal as well. So it was an interesting lineup.
It was a weird.
What are we calling this, right? So we got the pet roulette over at the Etihad. What is this? It's been suggested in the chat that we go with the Potter lottery. Quite like that. The Potter lottery. Let's go with that.
The Potter lottery. Well, look, all I know about Potter is that he and I are no longer friends.
You are so anti Reece James though.
Reece James,
unbelievable.
Right, because he is, for me, literally, he's a bigger troll for me than Zaha. And that is saying something, because Zaha has trolled me within an inch of my life over the last few seasons. But Reece James, my goodness.
Let's have a look at the Chelsea fixtures to see whether you're going to stay on Reece James or not. So Aston Villa away, and then in 12 they go away to Brentford, which is,
that's why I've got to keep him for these two.
Then it's United, Brighton, Arsenal, Newcastle. So it does get, it's pretty difficult.
Selling him on wildcard. I'm telling you all that now.
So if you wildcard in 13, as you have suggested.
Goodbye, James.
Yeah, maybe you could. Maybe you could not have Reece James potentially, but Villa up next, I think, is a nice fixture. So you're not going to sell him ahead of that, I don't think. Where else do you want to go? Let's cover through some of these games. Let's talk about your lot then against Brighton. A pretty good result, actually. I don't think too many teams are going to go to the Amex and get 3 points in quite the way that you did. But it was it was just a professional, good performance from Spurs. A very, very solid performance. It wasn't mind blowing. It wasn't too sexy, but it was get the job done.
It was one of our better performances, I think, this season. I feel like we've played a lot of average football and got points out of it. I actually thought we played well in this game because Brighton are a really good side. They are a good side.
Yeah.
They've got good players, and I really like the manager. I like what he's doing. I think it's a really, really interesting appointment from Brighton, and I think it could go really well for them. This game was a game I was really nervous about, and I sat down to watch it feeling rather stressed because I just thought that Brighton are a bit of a bogey team for Spurs.
Did Conte go a little bit back to last season here, because he played with the two boys up front with Kane and Son? No surprise to see that they combined for the goal. Richarlison on the bench to begin with, and no Perisic either in that starting lineup. So was that a bit of a shot in the arm for Son? Was that a bit of a boost for him? Did he play better without Perisic?
Yes, he did play better. Notice he got points as well when Perisic wasn't there. I thought Doherty had a really good game. I actually thought that Doherty kind of, because Conte made some weird comment after the Champions League about how Doherty's not ready to start.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, savage. And then he started him, and I thought he kind of, it maybe was one of those moments where he kind of went, Gaffer.
Yeah.
I'm all right, actually. Thanks very much. I thought Sessegnon was actually fantastic. I thought he really played well.
Well, Sky gave him man of the match, and you could see why. He was very good.
Yeah.
Yes, very good.
I was very impressed with Sessegnon. I thought it was a good... Spurs have had a really hard week, with the loss of the coach.
Well, yes, absolutely, yeah.
It was a very, very hard week. It was...
Do you think that sort of...
It spurred him on, 100%.
The players reacted to that, I think.
It was a massive motivation, and thank you to Brighton. If you were there, if any of you were there, thank you to the Brighton fans and the staff down there. It was a phenomenal tribute to him before the game, and I just think the Spurs, the outpouring from the players on social media, it wasn't just the standard, rest in peace post. It was a proper love affair that was going on there, and I do think that the players upped their game for it, and they were really solid, and they didn't want to lose this game on that basis. So no, very good performance from Spurs. Having said that, I still think Trossard is it's my family, isn't
pinged.
it?
I'm going to put that on airplane mode. So stop getting pinged.
That's the family group chat. I thought
you're not even tuned in.
I thought I thought the Trossard, for me, is still the standout pick. Brighton still had some really good opportunities in this game. So if you are invested in Brighton, I don't think that there's any need to kind of panic or sell them.
Stop everything.
What?
Stop everything. The chat have gone and done it again.
What?
The FPL family chat have done it again. It's not the Potter lottery.
Oh no, what is it?
It's the pottery.
Pottery?
Tombo, I love it. The pottery.
That's right. That is what we should call it from now on.
We're going with that. Brilliant.
The pottery. Yeah, I don't want to be part of the pottery, to be honest. But yeah, so if you have invested in Brighton, don't panic. They could have got something out of that game. I think if it had been a different Spurs performance that didn't have quite so much emotional attachment, they probably would have done.
All right.
And going forward, I'm still looking at investing in Brighton. I've got Veltman in my team.
Well, Matt Wilkinson says, do we invest in Spurs, Sam? Let's have a look at the fixtures going forward. It's Everton, United, Newcastle, Bournemouth, then a inverted commas red game against Liverpool, and then Leeds. So actually, the fixtures don't look too bad at all. In fact, the most difficult one there, I mean, going to Old Trafford's always going to be a little bit of a challenge. Newcastle at Spurs is difficult, but Bournemouth, Liverpool at home, Leeds at home. These are nice fixtures, aren't they?
They are. I think the difficulty you have with Spurs, as always, is how do you invest? I mean, the only one that is consistently performing well is Kane. He's consistently ticking over the 6, 7, 8 pointers and picking up some bonus points along the way as well. So you've got him as an option. I think when it comes to the defenders and the wing-backs in particular, it's very tough.
Difficult to buy Perisic at the moment, isn't it?
It is, because I think what we are starting to see is this kind of discrepancy between, do we want Son to be playing well or do we want Perisic on the pitch? And that seems to be, Conte seems to be stuck in a little bit of a dilemma.
Well, notice that was the sub, wasn't it? Son came off at the weekend and Perisic came
goes
on.
And that worked well. Perisic, I thought, actually played really well too when he came on, but he took Son off and let him have that position on the pitch. They just can't play well together at the moment.
What about, as Damien is saying in the chat, any news on Kane's injury? Is it serious?
I think
is he
he's
okay?
fine. I mean,
because he did have a little bit of an ankle niggle, didn't he?
They took him off straight after, but it was right at the end of the game, and I was worried about it. But actually, he was on social media quite a lot last night, video talking into the camera, and he was talking about we've got to continue this form into Tuesday. There was no indication of, I'll have to see how I am for Tuesday, for Wednesday, with the Champions League. So I think he'll be absolutely fine. And of course, we will have Champions League to see if there's any issues with Kane anyway this week. So but I think he'll be absolutely fine for the weekend. I don't think there's any serious problems, but he's the only one that's consistent.
I have to say, I'm looking at him, because if you look at Everton at home, Newcastle's a tricky game, Bournemouth, Liverpool, Leeds.
But Newcastle are conceding one every week.
That's true. Yeah. They seem to be giving sort of a sloppy goal away at least. They seem to be finding the scoring boots, but it's listen, there's 2 or 3 games there, or maybe even 4, between now and the World Cup, where Harry's going to get a brace, isn't he? There's a Harry Kane brace in there somewhere. I don't know where it is, but it's there. And I have to say, downgrading, again, I use that inverted commas, downgrading De Bruyne to Foden in 13, because, we're all of our transfers at the moment are to try and navigate game week 12. But in 13, by doing that downgrade, will enable me to do someone like Tony to Kane. And I can absolutely see it, because I just think, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Leeds, that is a nice run for Harry. That 4-game run there between 13 and 16 doesn't look too bad at all. It doesn't look too bad at all. So I have got my eye on him. Where else do you want to go? What games to discuss? Where else do you want to go to? What about this game? It's just a brief word on Bournemouth 2, Leicester 1, because Dominic Solanke as well done. You get your 2 assists. I don't know how you got them, but you got them, so you're going to take the points all day long.
One thing I will say...
What was going on with Leicester, though? Because Leicester, coming off the back of a decent result against Forest at home last Monday, then go to Bournemouth and fluff their lines.
Yeah,
What's going on?
But one thing I will say is that Bournemouth hadn't conceded at home under the new manager until this game.
That's true.
So we'd had
that sort of passed me by a little bit.
Yeah, so we'd had 2 games under the new manager at home for the Cherries, where they'd not conceded. And all right, they're not setting the world on fire. And because they're not setting the world on fire, they're not exactly scoring for fun.
Yeah.
I think we'd all kind of gone, Bournemouth, because they conceded a lot in early part of the season. And
are
then
they
weren't
not as bad as we think at home?
I don't think they're the worst team in the league.
They are 2 points above Liverpool at a minute. That was a bit of a drop the mic and maybe end the stream moment, wasn't it?
See you next week, guys.
They're like 7th or 8th Bournemouth, aren't they? I'm sure they're
The thing
right.
is, since the new managers arrived, they're actually decent-ish. They're not as bad as they once were. And so actually what I think we're finding is that we're getting a bit more of a solid Bournemouth defence. And I think they've kind of realised that if they want to stay up, they're going to have to get points at home.
Yeah.
And this game, I think Leicester, we know that Leicester defensively are pretty poor. They haven't changed overnight. You know, yes, all right, they had a good game against Nottingham Forest, but Nottingham Forest were terrible. They were awful in that game. So that's why Leicester were okay defensively. It actually doesn't surprise me to see Bournemouth score in this game.
You holding Maddison? What are you going to do with him?
Oh, yeah. I think because, again, it's a bit like we were saying about Liverpool. Going forward, they've actually not looked too bad. And Maddison could have had a goal in this one. He probably should have had a goal in this one, to be honest.
The only thing I'd like to point out from this game is Timothy Castagna. Not least because when we were doing the State My Case thing on Sky Sports News on Saturday morning, I said, you know, bear with me here because it's Timothy Castagna. And I have to say, I didn't notice that he'd gone off. So I saw the 2-1 result and I was just like, well, Castagna got nothing then. And then I noticed that actually he'd gone off on about
bit like Trippier last week.
Yeah, he got off on 67 minutes. And Bournemouth's, I think Christie scored on 68. So he literally went off. I think got a bit of an eye injury or something. So if you did actually bring in Castagna, keep an eye on it.
Oh, gosh.
But
all right,
I didn't even plan that, by the way. Didn't even plan that.
Oh.
Keep an eye on the Castagna injury, but he ended up getting like 7 or 8 pointer. So the jammiest 7 points ever if you got them. Where else to go, Sam? Let's just briefly round up the rest of these games. Wilfried Zaha's Palace 2, Leeds 1. What are we saying about Wilf's performance here? Is he doing anything to convince you that he might be captain material in game week 12?
I mean, this is a question for you because I was out partying and saw none of this game. Really, I literally watched Aronson, who was sat on my bench, get an assist.
What an assist, by the way! What an assist! It was sumptuous.
But
from
why?
Aronson. Really,
why
really
does this
good.
happen? Why do the weeks when you play the bench players, they get 1 or 2, and then
We're going to talk about your bench in a minute.
bench
Sam. We'll keep it. Ugh. But actually, from a Palace perspective,
what was Zaha like after I left?
He got the assist, and that was good. But I have to say, in the first half, I thought Leeds kind of bossed him out the game a little bit.
Right.
There's a couple of fairly heavy tackles on him early doors. And I've noticed that with Zaha a couple of times, actually. If you just stick one on him sort of early doors, he sort of drifts out the game a little bit and he gets a little bit, I don't know, gets a bit muscled out of the game, I thought. Leeds were pretty heavy-handed in that first half.
Right.
Pretty heavy-handed. Who was the defender on that side? Was it... I can't remember who even the defender was on that side, but they did a really good job on him. And as Leeds started to tire a little bit because they were pressing so hard across the pitch in that first half, I felt like they just drifted away from him. And the minute he got a little bit of space, he did a nice back heel, and Eze got the goal. Could you say you were a little bit lucky as a Zaha in to get the assist because it was such a good strike from Eze? Maybe, but then he could have had more, Zaha. He was in reasonable positions. He didn't really have his shooting boots on today. There was a couple that he put well wide when really should have been at least testing the goalkeeper. So to answer my own question, I don't think we saw enough from him to really flag him as a captaincy option in game week 12 yet. So we've got to see how he gets on next week.
I cannot see me handing the armband to Zaha.
No, I don't think so either.
I just wouldn't trust him.
I don't think so either. But listen, at the minute,
I don't know who I'm going to captain.
It to Salah, does it either? So
I might just get. Who's Spurs? Oh, Spurs have got United, haven't they?
You've got United. So anything else you want to discuss from these games?
No.
Except for the Tony wiping out.
Let's tell them the story.
Oh.
So
it was written, wasn't it? I was asking for trouble
all week.
All
week, Lee had been saying to me, "What shall I do? Shall I play my double Newcastle defence or shall I play Tony?" And I kept saying, "I don't think the double Newcastle clean sheet is on. They will not keep a clean sheet." And then you were like, "Well, I'll bench Tony because then if Mitrovic doesn't play, come on anyway." Yeah. And I was like, well, you know what's going to happen, don't you? And what happened?
Do you know what? It absolutely ruined my Saturday when Mbeumo scored. I know it got ruled off for VAR, but I didn't know that, did I?
No, because I told you it had happened.
You said to me, I wasn't looking at the scores, and you said Mbeumo scored. And I was just
we took the kids out for a milkshake,
and I was just I swore under my breath, I think. And then I was just...
I did tell you it got VAR'd out.
And then for a good 5 minutes, until you'd said, it got VAR'd out, I was just like, that is the worst possible outcome. Not only is the Newcastle double clean sheet gone, but it ain't Tony. It's such a disaster. So when Tony scored the penalty, I would have preferred him. I would have preferred the double clean sheet. Don't get me wrong, but the fact if Brentford were going to score, I'm glad that it was him. Put it that way. I'm glad that it was him.
I like when we're out and about when the games are on, and I'm always the bearer of bad news, aren't I? Because
you are, and you know who's in my team. You know I've got Newcastle double defence, and then when Mbeumo scored, you give it one of these. You do we're out, and you'll do this. You'll be like, I'm sorry to tell you Mbeumo scored. You're not sorry at all. You cannot wait to tell me Mbeumo scored. You can stand up on the park bench like, Mbeumo scored. The Newcastle clean sheets are gone, and I'm like, I know. I've got both of them. I've got hope.
I had Trippier. I didn't dance around on a park bench. I just told you it had gone. It's like today.
Everyone's got Trippier. Not everyone's got double Newcastle defence.
Well, I told you not to do it.
Clean sheets are gone. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news.
I mean, I did say sorry before I told you. It's like the same thing happened today when we were sat on the sofa and I went, "Oh, Pereira scored," and you were like, "Oh,
dear me." Just don't talk to me when football's on. Just don't talk to me. I don't want to know that Pereira scored. I don't. He's on my bench. I don't want to know.
But you might have played him.
No, well, I didn't, and you know I didn't. Right, anyway, let's move on to our teams. Before we do so... Sorry, I will go at you. I'm sorry.
It's like you tell me I've got to have an answer on Sky Sports News.
I do apologise. Yeah, I do apologise.
Oh, dear.
A quick shout out to our patrons. Many of you guys are in. I've seen Duncan. We've seen...
Size in from his hospital bed.
We've seen Andrew Yee. A few of you guys are in. So, guys, our patron community is alive and kicking. Patreon.com/FPLFamily. If you want a little bit more of Lee and Sam in your life, if you want extra podcasts on a Friday in the lead up to the game week, if you'd like to take part in our Manager of the Month competition, shout out to Raj, actually, who was our Manager of the Month from a few months ago. It was difficult for us to get him the Manchester United... Rajesh, yeah. What did I say?
Raj.
Yeah, I call him Raj in the chat, don't I?
Do you?
I think so, yeah.
What?
Anyway, Rajesh.
Are you special mates then?
Yeah, BFF's me and Raj.
No, you're not, because he always does his Zoom calls with me.
That's true. He doesn't always want to talk to you. Rajesh. So speaking to Rajesh, and he wanted a Man United shirt. Now, where he is in where he lives,
Australia.
In Australia, it's quite difficult to get him the shirt, but he's staying in London for a bit at the moment, so he managed to organise the shirt. So thank you, Rajesh,
sent it to his hotel,
helping us.
we
sent a random Man United shirt to a hotel in London randomly, but I think he got it today. So well done to Rajesh. So if you want a Manager of the Month competition, if you'd like one-to-one Zooms with us, I spoke to Duncan Ladkin. I know you've done a few different Zooms over the last couple of weeks.
I love
really nice
the Zooms.
to meet the community. So if you fancy a little bit more of that, patreon.com/FPLFamily to
I'll also ruin your week by telling you who scored as well, if you like. You know, just pop in the Slack and go, Kane scored, and set somebody off on a tangent.
Especially if you've got double Newcastle.
I don't seem to upset anyone else quite as much as I do my husband when I give him a score update.
If you've got Pope and Trippier and the opposition scores, Sam will let you know. She will let you know with bells on.
That's been helpful.
Shout out to Gavin, to Bryce, and to Nick, who... obviously, I've not added the game week 10 scores to this yet because we've still got one game left in game week 10. But at the end of game week 9, here's how our Manager of the Month for September-October was looking. Gavin at the top with 230. Bryce, who, by the way, is having an immense season, in with 228. And Nick Penwarden with 227. So listen, well done to Gavin, Bryce, and Nick. And it's still all to play for because there is a few weeks left in this month's Manager of the Month competition. So patreon.com/FPLFamily. If you want to go support us and have a little bit more Sam and Lee in your life, then you can. All right, let's get on with our team. So here is my team for game week 10. I've got 69 points, which is feeling pretty
not done yet.
Average. I've got Nico still to play, yeah, and if he doesn't play, I've got Andreas coming off the bench.
So do you want him not to play?
Yeah, I'd take the 6 from Andreas, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So you're praying for a Serge Aurier start?
If Serge Aurier gets the nod and the 90 minutes, that'd be great. But what'll happen is Serge will get the start and then Nico will come on for a 1 point cameo, probably, right? But anyway, I've got one to play. Nico Williams still to play. And given that, it's a Monday night, you've got the manager, it's like Steve's just signed a new contract, isn't he? A few years.
Yeah, a few years.
Under the lights at Forest.
Didn't see that coming, did you?
No.
I thought he was going to get sacked.
I'll be honest. When somebody said there's news about Steve Cooper, I was like, oh, he's gone then. And it's like, oh, he's just signed a new contract. Fair enough. So, listen, Nico's still to go, but 69 points is feeling pretty average. A game week rank of 3.3. My overall rank is a tiny, tiny red arrow of minus literally 1%. I've gone down from 132, I think, to 135. Went up and down throughout the game week, but I've landed more or less where I started. So, if Nico gets anything, hopefully that changes into a small green arrow. If he doesn't play, Andreas comes on and I get a bit of an arrow as well. I got a little bit, could you say, lucky with the Tony points off the bench. I guess I always had him as first sub there. I didn't think Mitrovic was going to play. So Tony,
did your 69 include the Tony points?
69 includes Tony.
Okay.
Yeah, that includes Tony. Obviously, wiping out the 8 at the back from Pope and Trippier. I don't like the sound of that, but the fact that it was Tony is better than if it was Mbeumo. Put it that way.
I've never seen somebody so unhappy to see the Newcastle clean sheet.
Yeah. But anyway, the team was... Listen, it was fine, but a lot of the highly owned players that a lot of other people have got, like Cancelo, like Martinelli, like Trippier, those were the ones that really did the business for me. The differentials that I had, or the slight differentials, like Maddison is still a little bit of a differential, like Zaha, still a little bit of a differential. Nothing for those guys. In actual fact, the biggest differential for me was actually Tony coming off the bench with the 5-pointer. That's
was it?
Probably the biggest differential I've got. Nico Williams aside, right? Because Nico's a pretty good
if Nico Williams goes on a riot tomorrow, you're laughing.
Yeah. So anyway,
all stays on the bench.
69 points is fine, I think, for this game week. Not too upset about it. No change in rank. Listen, we just go again, right? And hopefully it's a green after Nico Williams. But you, Sam, from FPL Family, have had a good week, and this is starting to become a regular occurrence. The Sam Bonfield comeback is on, and you've had a few game weeks in a row now where the green arrows have been reasonably consistent. So talk us through your game week.
Yeah. It's going all right at the minute.
Yeah.
I think the decision not to wildcard a couple of weeks ago actually has done me a few favours. And at the time, I was like, have I made a massive mistake again here, like I did last season when I held it too long?
Yeah.
But actually, I think the game week 12 cancellation of that City and Arsenal game has meant I've held wildcard, which actually has done me a favour because it's meant I've kept Martinelli and Jesus, who now actually are acting. I know you just said that, Martinelli is heavily owned, but he's still acting as a decent springboard because a lot of people have got off of him. So him and Jesus are regularly returning. That front three have been so consistent for me since I've owned the three of them together. Kane and Jesus and Haaland up there doing the business every single week. So I'm pleased with those. Reece James, the most biggest disappointment of my life. On the bench.
How are you feeling about your Bowen transfer a couple of weeks ago? Because Maddison got you out of jail last week with it, but this week, 1 pointer against Bowen's, whatever he got, 8 or 9 points. Difficult to take.
No, I don't. It is what it is. I'm not so worried about that. To be honest, I hadn't seen enough consistent form from Bowen. And in that game that I bought him in for, which was the punt where I was supposed to then wildcard, either way, he was always planning to go in that moment. So I don't feel too bad about it. But what I am now kind of pondering on is, on wildcard, if we still see this West Ham, I still don't think it's as good as a West Ham as it was last season, by the way. But they are starting to look a bit better.
I do like Scamacca, You called him a couple of weeks ago and I said, well, we've got to wait and see. I think he looks proper, by the way.
Him and Paqueta.
Good player.
Yeah, I think the two of them are nice assets at West Ham. So I'm kind of watching to see there. And maybe I do go back to Bowen on wildcard because the fixtures do remain nice for a while. And even that Liverpool game now doesn't look like a bad one for the attacking West Ham players anyway. So I'm actually fairly pleased with my team. I'm glad that I don't have the Newcastle double up.
Thanks for that.
And, at some point, I have got to start thinking about my team for game week 12. Obviously, for Edison, it's not really that big a deal. I just move him to the bench and play Ward in game week 12. That feels fine. But I do have then the 4 outfield players. I have Martinelli and I have Jesus, I have Cancelo and I have Haaland. Now,
kind of surprised you still got Edison and Cancelo after you suggested that everybody sell them.
I did not suggest that everybody sell them. I mean, if you actually listen to the podcast, I didn't say sell anyway, whatever.
You've been done dirty there by somebody in the Premier League. You've been done proper dirty.
Never mind.
Because you said something about freeing up the Man City places so that you could have more attackers in the long term, and they've turned that into a
Southampton.
And they've turned that into a tweet that says sell Cancelo, and everyone's giving you absolute pelters for a week. It's unreal.
All week, and I've kind of gone.
You're quite influential in FPL Towers. Come on, can you not have a word with somebody? Who does the tweets? Get them fired. Come on. Someone's got to pay for this.
Honestly,
defamation of character.
I don't know where I don't even know, because on the podcast I was very clear about I wouldn't sell Cancelo this week, and somehow
it's not what they tweeted.
It's not what they apparently tweeted. I said sell him. I don't know where. Maybe I said it in my sleep. Who knows? Anyway,
you've got so much abuse.
I know I did. At some point, I'm gonna have to sell a couple now. Martinelli and Haaland are the two that probably can't be sold because of the value that I have invested in them. So those two have got to move to the bench. My thinking with game week 12 is that I don't have a lot of value in Cancelo, and I don't have any value in Jesus because he's dropped back in price down to starting point. So selling Jesus ahead of game week 12 will be fine. I mean, so my current thinking is do nothing going into game week 11, and then have the two transfers heading into game week 12, whereby I can sell Cancelo and I can sell Jesus, knowing that as soon as that deadline passes for game week 12, I'm going to hit the wildcard button and bring back Jesus, 100% bring back Jesus, and then make some decisions on how I invest in Manchester City and whether it is bring back Cancelo and then Foden in midfield, because Foden 100%.
What are you going to do with Ederson for game week 12 though? Because Tom Meany's just sent in a super chat. Thank you, Tom, for the super chat. Hi guys, love the show. What should I do with my goalkeepers, Ederson and Everson? So he's in a slightly different position to you.
Yeah.
Should I upgrade or downgrade for game week 12? And will you both be on Sky again? We will, mate. We'll be on in a couple of weeks.
We've got a couple more booked in before the World Cup, but we'll be on the 22nd next.
What would you do in that situation then? So you're saying you'd bench Ederson,
it's fine
you bring in Ward, all good, right?
Yeah. Unless there's
what about
obviously
you got
a change.
Everson?
Well, I think, unless something massively changes at Leicester in game week 11 and Everson gets to start over Ward, and then I've got to do something about it. But I think it also depends on your strategy, Tom, because if you've already played your wild card, then I'd be thinking very carefully still about Ederson, because I thought, and I still stand by the fact that in pre-season he was a good pick, because Manchester City have been really, really solid defensively over the course of the season, but I do think the double up is too much because they're so good going forward this year. So I don't think you want to hold him long term anyway, and therefore
most other seasons a 5.5 defender that regularly got you a 6, you take that all day long.
You would, but I think, if you look at Foden and the City attack and Cancelo, the potential ceiling for those guys is so much greater than it is for Ederson that you're going to want to free up that place anyway. So I would look to downgrade him. If I was making a goalkeeper change at this point, and I think you've got a few options that you could go to. I mean, the Crystal Palace fixtures remain nice, so you could go to someone like Gaeta, but I don't really trust them to keep clean sheets that well. Actually, the Everton fixtures look quite nice in a slightly more.
You're having Pickford here.
So you could go for Pickford.
Scored today, didn't he?
That's not why, but the fixtures do look quite nice. I just think you could go in with a cheaper goalkeeper, save that budget that you can then put somewhere else if you want to upgrade somebody else. And I don't think that, you maybe accept that you're going to only get 2 out of your goalkeeper, but you have the ability to then have 3 Manchester City outfield players where the ceiling of points is so much higher.
Okay. All right, so a pretty good week for you then. So overall rank up into the top million now. So 838, game week score of 74, and an overall rank change of 29.5 with, of course, Mr. Nico, the legend Williams,
bench.
Still to go. The bench
savage.
Is looking unreal. So Aronson, Andreas, both of whom would have been decent differentials for you. So
savage.
At least if Nico doesn't get the nod and Serge Aurier gets the 90 minutes, then Aronson.
I don't want a 1-pointer though.
Yeah, a 1-point cameo from Nico would
maybe he could get a cold.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Let's look at our bus teams then for next week. What are you thinking in terms of your transfers? First of all, 1 free transfer, 2 free transfers, or wild card? What are you thinking?
Just the one.
Just 1 free transfer, okay.
But I'm probably going to, like I was just saying before, I'm probably going to roll it. I like the look of my team for next week. Unless Kane is suddenly...
Good shade, right?
Yeah, unless Kane is suddenly actually injured. I don't think he is, but unless he is. And even then, there's players on my bench that I'm kind of looking at thinking, I don't really want you on my bench this week. I think there's a few players down there that I'd quite like to play this week. So I think the plan for this week is just to hold fire, roll the transfer through, and then know that going into game week 12, I've got a couple of transfers that I can make sure my team is fully lovely and looking great for game week 12. Exploit that game week at a time where some people won't have 11 players. Some people will be struggling to get Manchester City and Arsenal back in again for game week 13, and I think you're going to want them in there. So kind of play the next couple of game weeks and hope that this strategy keeps those green arrows coming, because it has been a nice little run that I've been on for the last few weeks, and it's 2 weeks ago I was at 2.3 million. So to be at just over 800k now is very, very nice in 2 game weeks. So if we can kind of keep chunking off a couple of K each week.
You've had a few good weeks, to be fair. I mean, since I played the wildcard in game week 8, I feel like I've been treading water. I haven't really had any. I mean, the Madison that a lot of us, or certainly a lot of the FPL Twitter community had, definitely helped. Last Monday night definitely helped. But outside of that, the decision to upgrade, again, I'm going to do it again, Foden to De Bruyne on my wildcard a few weeks ago, having sat with Foden for the first 6 game weeks of the season.
Yeah, it's a frustrating one.
And been like, yeah, this guy, he's doing really well, Foden. He's getting the starts and he's ticking over, but he's really not providing this. De Bruyne was all over it, wasn't he? Absolutely phenomenal. And then Grealish finds some form. Foden goes to the right and he gets, 2 or 3 double-digit hauls in a row, including last game week, which was just ridiculous. So missing out on those has been a big, I'm not going to say turning point, but it's a big regret I've got in the FPL season so far, for sure. But listen, I've played the wild card and had a couple of mediocre weeks. You've not, and had a couple of good weeks. And the teams look the same, right? Cancelo, James, Trippier, yes. Nico, yeah. So the back 4 is exactly the same.
It's the front 3 that have really helped me out.
Madison, Saka, Martinelli, yeah. Zaha, yeah. So it's like my De Bruyne versus your Kane. And I've got, Mitrovic and Tony, and you've got Jesus and Aronson, right? Pretty much, because we've both got Andreas, both have got a 4.5 bit of bench fodder, and both got a crap keeper. So yeah, sorry, it's dissing Ward big time there.
You leave Wardy alone. I haven't played him yet.
Ward or Ederson next week? It's interesting that your bus team's got Ederson in it at the minute.
Ederson.
Yeah, I would back us to score a goal, so I'm not sure about that. But listen,
would you? Who's going to score it? They're all injured now. No playing out from the back. No Robertson. No Trent.
Yeah, all right.
No Diaz.
Yeah, you can make a case. But I do think we'll get a goal at home. I think we'll be all right. Super chat from Rajesh. Hey Rajesh, how are you doing?
There he is.
Well soon. Message from all FPL family Patreon members to midfield master Jack Carbo. You see, that is why we love the Patreon community. It's so good. Everyone's just looking out for each other. Thank you, Rajesh, for that. Yes, as we said,
we're glad you got your shout as well.
Best wishes to Cyberdet. He's laid up in hospital at the minute, and we are sending you our best wishes, mate. So get well soon.
100%.
Great message. Thank you, Rajesh. So in terms of my transfers for next week, I've got 2 free transfers. I haven't got a clue at the minute. Not a clue.
Assuming that Mitrovic is going to be fit again because it was a late test for this week, you'd assume he's back in. But
I don't know if you can make that assumption based on the comments from Marco Silva today. Seen that?
Well, but not only that, but also Bournemouth actually aren't that bad at the moment.
Yeah, true.
So
well, maybe away, they're not that great away. We've got to see, haven't we? I mean, if he's even maybe fit, you've got to have him at home to Bournemouth.
To be fair, how many transfers you got?
I got 2.
Yeah, because at some point you got to take out one of your City boys.
Yeah. Well, it'll be De Bruyne that goes. I think I discussed this last week, right? Because going forward, I do want Foden.
So what are you planning to take him out next week? Or this week?
I doubt if I will take him out ahead of Liverpool.
So you're going to take him out ahead of game week 12 then?
12 will be a
and then replace him with somebody who then replace again?
I think so. Yeah. And that is why, even though I'm going into game week 11 with 2 free transfers, I'm going to try and only use 1. Because I'd like the 2. We're going to need those transfers in game week 12 and 13, aren't we? So I want to keep those in the bank, ready to execute. I don't think this. I'm looking at my team now. I don't think that needs 2 free transfers. I might do something around the edges, right? And it could be that I should have done it in my wild card, but I think I needed that. I actually genuinely think I needed the 0.1 to go Everson rather than Ward. Maybe I just put Ward back in there or something, or do some tinkering around the edges. But listen, I don't really want to take Tony out ahead of a home game because they're pretty good form at home. If Mitrovic is fit, that's one of the best fixtures he's going to have all season. I'm struggling already in that front 7 to find a place for Andreas, who's just scored.
I know.
Against Bournemouth at home. So I've got him first sub.
Me too.
I can see why you would have played Nico. I can see that because Wolves are a bit crap. So Forest away are also a bit crap. But
I also quite fancied playing Veltman as well because they look all right at the minute.
Maybe. So listen, it's looks like next game week is going to be quite a difficult game week to call because on paper Liverpool City should be a difficult game to call. I know we're all sitting here saying we know what we think is going to happen, but it is one of the biggest games on the calendar. Anything can happen.
I'm not
Madison against Zaha in your middle. You've got your 2 midfielders up against each other. That's going to be interesting, right?
But it doesn't really matter, does it?
No, it should be fine. You've got Newcastle Man United, which is a very good game as well. Up at Old Trafford, which would be a cracker. Leeds Arsenal is always full of absolute guile and shocking tackles. Those 2 hate each other, don't they? So it's going to be a very, very interesting game week. Very, very interesting game week. So right now, I'm actually not sure what I'm going to do with my 2 free transfers, but what I'm going to try and do is only spend one of them. Super chat from Aki Laurie. Thank you, Aki. I'm bringing in Manchester and Arsenal, then free hit game week 12. Bad idea? ?
No.
If that is your strategy, that is not a bad idea.
I don't think that's a bad idea, because we're at a point where only 3 Manchester City and 3 Arsenal feels like almost a must-have for game week 13, 14, 15 and 16. And therefore, I think owning 3 Arsenal for game week 12... for game week 11 also looks really nice against Leeds. Owning at least a couple of Man City for the Liverpool game also looks like a really nice idea. So if you are 5 or 6 deep in players that aren't playing in game week 12 and you want those players again, which you will, for game week 13, then I think free hit in 12 is an absolutely fine strategy. I
think the team I feel a little bit wary of going into game week 11 is Spurs, actually. I don't have any Spurs. Home to Everton. I mean, I know they've conceded 2 tonight, and before that were the best defensive team in the league, but you've got the tools.
They're going to give me a nice birthday present that day.
You've got the tools to beat them. Yeah, it's your birthday that day, isn't it? So
Hurricane Hattie come in for me.
You've got the tools to dismantle
Maybe he
Everton,
could have a shirt that says "I love Sam" from FPL Family.
I'm sure that could be arranged. Right, talk us through this week. What's going on?
You're on Off the Bench with Harry.
I'm on Off the Bench this week.
On Tuesday.
With FPL Harry. Yes,
Harry seems to only be able to do Off the Bench if it's with you or me.
That's true. So
he's got you this time around.
A few weeks from now, by the way, it's me and it's our very own FPL Focal, who is in the chat, by the way. So Oscar, hey mate, how you doing? I'm on Off the Bench with Oscar in a few weeks, but for this week, yes, it's me and Harry, isn't it, this week?
Yeah, it'd be lovely. I'm looking forward to listening to you two wax lyrical about you.
That's going to be good, I can't wait.
Well, yeah, because Harry's going to be talking about the pottery. You're going to be talking about, well, I don't know if you are going to be talking about...
He's doing really well, isn't he, Harry, at the minute, in this season?
Yeah, but he's not going to be happy about Potter, sure. Well, he will be happy about the result, but he'd probably feel a bit like, about Reece James. Be interested to get his thoughts on that.
What else is going on?
I'll be on the official podcast, of course, this week.
Of course.
As normal, that'll be out on Thursday afternoon. And
I think Can I use the word banter? I'm going to say the chemistry between you and Jules and Kelly is good. It's really good, actually.
I love those guys.
It's very good.
I absolutely love podding with Kelly and Jules.
The Jules are on Sam Bonfield. Your kids playing FPL sort of competition is a thing now, isn't it? That's the thing. I'm quite enjoying it.
Just a quick update for anyone that's interested. I did actually make Max's team changes this week, and
he's smashing it, isn't he?
And we hit the save button, and he had Hugo Lloris in goal for 10 points. 10 points.
He's about 50k, isn't he?
I didn't. Well, the last time I looked, he was inside the top 100k. Honestly, last week he would have been in the top 20k had I actually hit save last week. The boy is on absolute flames, and I am so here for his FPL decision making. It is hilarious.
Imagine if you'd actually saved the team last week and he got Maddison's Hall against Forest, because he missed that. And Diaz got a 4 or 5 pointer. Yeah, and
he was going to play Ward instead of Lloris last week, and he missed that Hall as well. Honestly, the kid is absolute flames, and I am to blame for the fact that he's not in the top 10k by now. Honestly, it's brilliant. But so what else is going on this week? So you're on Off the Bench. I'm on the podcast. We'll also have an Ohana as usual, which we'll probably put out Thursday night because it's a Friday deadline, I imagine. And then obviously you'll be able to catch me on the Q&A with as normal on Friday lunchtime. We normally do that at 12. And yeah, all exciting stuff, and we'll be back on Sky in a couple of weeks.
Very good. All right, guys. Well, listen, well done in game week 10, and good luck. TikTok is always ongoing, right? And YouTube Shorts as well. Don't forget YouTube Shorts. So yes, thank you for tuning in this evening and joining us. Well done in game week 10. If you're up into the 60s or 70s, even if for those of you in the 80s, well done. There's a few of you out there. And good luck to anybody that has got Nico Williams or any other Forest assets against Aston Villa. Or I should say, if you've got Aston Villa assets as well, good luck with them. If you've got a Watkins,
I'm watching them, by the way.
In
case you didn't know,
you are heavily watching them for some reason. Guys, thank you for joining us this evening. Leave us a like before you go. If you're new to FPL Family, then hit that subscribe button as well, and we'll see you back here 8:30 usual time on Sunday night. Until then, see you soon. Cheers, guys.
Bye, guys.